How's it going, everybody? This is Beat the Bush. This is the Philips Smart Deadbolt with fingerprint recognition and Wi-Fi bridge. One of the things that keeps me from buying these smart locks is wondering if these will fit on my front door with pre-existing holes. This is designed in such a way that it's very versatile. It can cater to most doors, and I'll go over the measurements that your door must have in order to use this as a drop-in replacement. From the inside, just unlock it, turn the handle, and it opens. Now we're on the outside. If I just close it, tap the touch button, select the check mark, and it'll close. To open it, you just use your fingerprint.
Verification succeeded.
And there we go. Now you want to use a key. You can also twist this open here. Put in your key and turn it open. Or you can enter in your passcode.
Verification succeeded.
And also through the app. You buy this separately. This will allow you to just solely use the fingerprint to open and close the door. Because if this requires a key, you have to open both of these up in order to open the door. I actually had to pry this door latch a little bit, just by 0.5 millimeter, so it comes out. This is so that when the door is closed, it would push it a little bit closer, and this will keep the deadbolt from kind of sliding against this surface here. So when you close it, see? Very little friction. And this is what you aim to do, because if there's too much friction on here, the internal motors can't actually fully close the door. Let me go back and unbox this and show you what's inside. User manuals for the Wi-Fi bridge, a template in 2 different languages, installation guide, quick start guide, and the lock user manual. Here's the main product. Pretty heavy duty. There's a rubber grommet around the edge for weatherproofing. And then on the other side, you put your 4 AA batteries, and you can manually lock it with this knob. The front says you can rotate it freely, so let me remove this. It doesn't rotate counterclockwise, but only clockwise up like that. The fingerprint is right here. I've used these before, and mostly you just use a fingerprint. And only as a fail-safe do you ever need the key. But you still need to carry the key in case it runs out of battery. Here's a deadbolt hardware. This is the Wi-Fi bridge. It's actually smaller than my smart plugs. And it's nice to include the batteries in here. If you turn it around, I've covered up some serial numbers with a sticker. Notice that it only requires 1 big hole. So just because it's really long, it does not require another hole right back here. But you can attach this extra post for extra security if you want, but not absolutely required. You can attach it so that it comes out towards the left or the other way. So you can attach it on either side of the door. The hole in your door can either be 1.5 inch or 2 1/8 inch, 38 millimeters or 54 millimeters. The hole of this outer big ring is 2 1/8, and you can remove this outer ring so that it's smaller at 1 1/2 inch. Like this, and that right there becomes 1.5 inch. So it can fit your door hole in 2 different sizes. Generally, the hole for the deadbolt piece is 1 inch in diameter, and that's for this outer shell here, that's 1 inch. And there's this other criteria for a back set. That's how far this hole is from the edge of the door, and it can either be 2 3/8 inch or 2 3/4 inch. They made this so that it's configurable. Look at this little channel here. This allows you to extend it a little bit from the center of this hole, which is the center of the lock, to the edge of the door. That's at the smaller distance of 2 3/8. If you want to change it, slide this over so that it's in the lock position, and then you just twist this 1 round, and it becomes longer. And magically, it becomes 2 3/4 inches long. For my door, I needed a longer one, so I've set it at the longer distance. The other adjustability is the thickness of the door. It can be anywhere between 1 3/8 inch to 2 inches thick. That's anywhere in between, not 2 different thicknesses. So a lot of adjustability depending on how thick your door is. The other thing is that it wants the deadbolt hole to be 1 inch deep. For mine, it was only 1/2 inch deep, so I had to drill it a little bit more. When you extend this, it really needs to go all the way in order to fully lock. Even if I'm just a little bit off, you can still push it back. Pretend I have like some kind of card stuck in here, trying to like wedge this. If there's enough friction, I can just kind of almost just push it out and open the door, sort of like picking the lock. Here's another thing where it can adapt to the door that you have. I have this style of lock where you have a plate in front and you put 2 screws in, but you can actually pull all this apart and add in this drive-in collar instead. So if your door is not chiseled out for this little plate, you can use this instead. Another thing that you may need to do is if you have the 1 1/2 inch hole. If you have that, you see that inner ring here, it's only 1 1/2 inch. If you put this over, it kind of extends beyond that. So over here is talking about using a 1-inch drill to make more room, so you got to drill into it a little bit. And also, if the hole happens to be too small, this little cam thing that moves in and out like that, it goes beyond that 1 1/2 inch diameter. So you might actually have to chisel out a little piece in the door so that this won't interfere. And that's what they're showing over here. So if you have the bigger diameter hole, you don't have to do any chiseling for this little cam thing that moves in and out. This thing goes in the frame of your door, and this thing matches with that so that when it locks and the door can't be pushed open. It comes with a separate back plate that has double holes on each side. This is for extra security. You put this in with the longer screws, and then you put this on top of that with the shorter screws. Double screws make it a little bit more secure. Here we have the magnetic door sensor. Typically you attach this outside on the door frame, and it needs to be placed somewhere close to the top side so it can sense the magnet. You can either use just the 3M sticker and stick it in place. You can use the sticker and use the 2 screws and screw it into place. Or if you don't like that, you can push this little magnet out and drill a 5/8 inch hole into the door frame, and then you can cover it up with this little cover piece. It fits in like that. In my door, I have the larger hole size. The thickness of the door is 1 3/4 inches thick. That's within the range. And what they call the backseat distance is 2 3/8, which is the larger distance. Also, this hole diameter is 1 inch, and it is chiseled out for that little plate. I'll extend it once again. You just twist it. Right on the edge here, it says up. So we gotta turn it this way and insert it. I'll screw it into place. Make sure it's in the unlocked position. Put in the front plate, pull the wire underneath, and thread this little thing through this hole here, and then push it in the rest of the way. And this just sits right on top of your door like that. You'll notice I have this unpainted part of the door here. That's because I used to have a lock that's a combination deadbolt and kind of like a knob here. So it requires 2 holes very close to each other. Now I'm replacing it with a deadbolt on top and just a lever on the bottom. This does not come included with the smart deadbolt, and it's just a lever, and this thing with the slant is the latch. And what this does for you is you can just push it and it'll just close itself. You don't have to lock it, you don't have to close the deadbolt or anything. But with the deadbolt, right, once it's extended, you can't actually push it into place. It'll just get stuck. So there's 2 different mechanisms here. Usually locks are like that. And I've chosen not to have a lock on this bottom one because then it would defeat the purpose of the smart deadbolt. Because this you can access with just a fingerprint. If this is not smart, then you can't get in even if you have the fingerprint. This thing has a backing plate. You need to lift up these little latches on the side, and the backing plate will drop right out. Make sure these notches are towards you. Thread the connector through this long hole here and put 2 of these long bolts through. Make sure this is vertical with a leveler on both sides. Make sure it's leveled, then tighten. Here's a hole for the extra security if you want to add that. Be extra careful with over tightening these. If you tighten these too much, this metal piece kind of warps inwards, and then you won't be able to put this bigger piece on top because it has to catch onto these latches here. Once you do that, connect the cable here. Make sure it's in the unlocked position. Guide the cable through this hole. Push the rest of it back inside. And this little piece should line up with this hole here. Just push that in, and the latches should latch down on either side. Put the 2 screws in. Put the batteries in, and put the backing plate back on. I had an issue before where the deadbolt was kind of sliding against this metal piece on the front. That's because there's this little foam piece that pushes the door that way. Therefore, I needed the door to move inwards more and get locked in place before the deadbolt goes through. What I did was kind of move this little flap right here out a little bit. Therefore, after the door is closed, it would get pushed against here a little bit more. I just did that with a flathead screwdriver, went in here, and kind of pried it out a little bit. The strike plates that come with the lock is a little bit longer than what I have here. So if I were gonna replace this, I'm gonna have to kind of chisel a little bit more out. Therefore, I'm opting to keep the reinforcement plate right here and also my original hardware. It works the same anyway, as long as your deadbolt is gonna fit right through that hole. There's a chance that this hole may not be deep enough. Like mine, it's only about 1/2 inch deep. So I gotta make it a little bit deeper. I need to remove the hardware first. Remove this reinforcement plate. and drill this a little bit deeper. Now it's about 7/8 of an inch deep, about 1 inch from this edge here. When you just push it closed, and then when you lock it,
Door locked.
you got to make sure the deadbolt moves freely without much resistance, because there's a motor in there and it doesn't have that much power. So if you're just using one finger like that, and that would be perfect. We can also double check this.
Door unlocked. Door locked.
I'm going to install the door sensor. There are various ways to mount it. I'm choosing to mount it so that it's inside the door frame, because if I mount it right here, it just kind of gets in the way. And if I mount it here, it's not close enough to this number pad. So I'm going to have to mount it like right here. You mark the bottom of this paper ruler, and then you move the ruler so that it's underneath the mark, so that the hole is a little lower right there, and make sure it aligns with the deadbolt. I'll drill a pilot hole first. Then you need this 5/8 inch drill bit only if you want to install it in the frame. For most cases, you can just install it on the front with screws or with a tape. Drill it 1/2 inch deep, and let's hope that this fits in there. My drill bit is kind of dull, so it's not fitting too well. I'm just gonna glue this in with some caulk. Plug in the Wi-Fi bridge. You can also use this as a smart plug. You can turn this on and off with the side button. Download the Philips Home Access app. Create an account. Select Add Device on the app. Allow the app to use the camera. If it does not find a Bluetooth device, you can use the battery cover. The back of it has a QR code and you can scan that to connect. For me, it shows up as Bluetooth devices, so I can just add them right here. I've installed the device, it's pairing it. I've already changed the master code, so it wants that before you can add it. Connection succeeded. I've installed the door sensor. Set the lock to the unlock status. Click Next. Open up the door to 45 degrees. I have opened up the door. Click Next. Close the door. I have closed the door. Select Next. Open the door again. I have opened the door. Close the deadbolt and select Next. And we're calibrated. Complete. Now we'll add the wireless bridge. It's already shown in the app, so I'll just connect to that. Device powered on. Press and hold the reset button for 5 seconds. I have completed the setup. Next. Now it's pairing it. Connection successful. Now we need to connect it to our Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi is connecting. Succeeded. Select Next. Complete. Now it's connecting the Wi-Fi bridge to the door lock, so we have Wi-Fi control. Because it's connected to Wi-Fi, I can remotely unlock it, just like this. And you can also set up temporary passcodes for guests. Check out this activity list. We'll show what locked it and what unlocked it and by which method. So the last thing we did was unlock with the app. Front door auto lock. Front door is unlocked by the app. Front door is locked manually. Front door is unlocked manually. So if I unlock it, and refresh the activities, front door is unlocked manually, and it has a timestamp right here to let you know when that happened. I can add another PIN code, permanent PIN code, a recurring one, so it will only be activated during a certain time or a certain duration, or you can set up a one-time use. You can manage the fingerprint access over here. I have a couple of fingerprints already enrolled. If I want to add another one, I actually have to touch the physical hardware, the door lock in the front, in order to do this. It also has a door icon to let you know if the door is completely open or closed, not just lock or unlock. So if I unlock this, it shows unlocked. And if I open up the door, this icon here shows the door is completely open. Here are the instructions on how to reprogram the master PIN code. The default is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm not going to go through every single step because it's just kind of lengthy. You can change the master PIN code, add a user PIN code, delete it, add a user fingerprint, delete the fingerprint, change the system language, change how long the auto lock engages in 30, 60, 120, or 180 seconds, and you can also turn on away mode. Having the Wi-Fi bridge separately allows the battery power to last a lot longer in your lock. Because it's Wi-Fi controlled, you can remotely control the lock. You don't actually have to be home to do it, including setting up temporary passwords. You can change the password if you run an Airbnb. If you guys are interested in this door lock, I highly recommend it. Check out my affiliate link down in the video description below. Thanks for watching this video. Until next time.